If you've been wondering what's happening in the Calgary real estate market right now, the answer is it depends on what you own. Because right now, we are not just in one market, we are actually in multiple markets happening at once. And if you don't understand that, you can easily make the wrong decision as a buyer or as a seller. So, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we are seeing in the Calgary market as of March. So, I'll walk you through what's happening in detached homes, townhomes, and condos, but more importantly, what this actually means for you as the consumer, whether you are a buyer or a seller. And I'm also going to explain a few key terms that I'll be talking about, like months of supply, balance versus a buyer or seller markets, so you can actually understand how to interpret what you are hearing in the marketplace right now. Let's start with the big picture. In March, we saw 1,881 sales. Now that's up from February, which is normal as we move into the spring market, but it's still 13% lower than last year. So the demand is there, but it's softer than what we've been used to over the past couple of years. Now at the same time, inventory levels are rising, which again is typical for spring, but it's rising unevenly depending on the property type. And this is really where the story starts to split. Before we go deeper, I want to quickly explain a couple of key terms to you that you will hear quite a bit. Now, months of supply. Now, this is one of the most important metrics. It tells us how long it would take to sell all of the current inventory if no new homes came onto the market. So we have 0 to 2 months, which typically means a seller's market, where we have low supply, we have high demand. Then we have around that 2 to 4, maybe 4.5, 5 months of inventory. We have a balanced market, but really 2 to 4. Now, 4 months and higher, that is a strong buyer's market. So more supply than demand. So when I say condos have maybe close to 5 months of supply, that's a very different market when detached homes are sitting close to 2 months. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. Now, sales to new listings ratio. So this tells us how much demand there is compared to new supply that comes on the market. So 60% or more is strong demand. Around that 50% is balanced, and then below 40 or 45% shows that we have lesser demand or a softer demand. So again, you can see how each segment behaves differently. So let's start with the detached home sector. This is still the tightest part of the market. The benchmark price, which is sitting at $741,000, the months of supply is just over 2 months, and this means that we're still in a relatively strong condition here. But where the nuance matters is in some areas of the city, like the Northwest, South, the West, we're actually seeing under 2 months of supply. So those pockets are still very competitive. We're seeing multiple offers, we're seeing lots of demand, we are seeing prices go up. Now, if you are selling a detached home, you're still in a very good position overall, but this is not the same market as 2021 or 2022. The homes that are priced properly and showing well, they're still doing very well. Again, of course, depending on the pocket in the city that you are. Now, the ones that are overpriced or the ones that don't show too well when they're viewed, those ones are sitting. But if you're buying detached, you still need to be ready. You may not always be in multiple offers, but the good homes are still moving fairly quickly. And this is not where you can assume you'll negotiate heavily across the board. Now, looking at the semi detached homes as well as the row or townhomes, both of these sectors are behaving more balanced, around 2.5 to 3 months of supply. Now, prices are down slightly year over year, and we're seeing more inventory come into the market, and demand has slowed compared to last year. But things are still selling, just not instantly. It's just taking a little bit longer to sell this product. So, for sellers, in these product types, this is where you need to stand out. You cannot rely on the market to do the work anymore. So, you can't just list something and it sells. So, your presentation, your staging, and your pricing all matter. Now, for buyers looking for this product, this is where you start to see more opportunity. You have a bit more selection, you have a little bit more time, so less pressure, and in some cases, you have the ability to negotiate, but not necessarily by much. Let's dive into the condominium market. This is the biggest shift that we're seeing right now, nearly 5 months of supply. Inventory is near record highs. Prices are down about 9% year over year. And this segment of the market is firmly in a buyer's market all across the city. There are more listings, fewer buyers, and this is putting the pressure on pricing. So, sellers, this is where you need to be very realistic. Buyers have options. So, if your unit is not priced competitively or doesn't show well, it will sit. And the longer it sits, the harder it becomes to sell. Your unit needs to stand out amongst the other units that are available in the market, and this usually is directly relational to price. So, how much value do the buyers see in your unit compared to something else that they find in the market? Now, buyers, this is where the opportunity is right now. You have choice, you have some leverage, and in many cases, you can negotiate on price and terms. And some sellers are a little bit more desperate, so you might have the ability to negotiate even further. So it just depends on the situation and all the factors around the situation or the specific property. Now, the biggest takeaway is this: we are not in one market, we are in multiple markets. What works for detached homes will not work for condominiums, and what worked even a year ago will not necessarily work today. So if you are thinking about making a move this year, this is the time to get a plan in place. So for sellers, it's about positioning your home properly from day one. And for buyers, it's about understanding where you actually have leverage and where you don't, so that you can make the best decision for you. So if you are even thinking about buying or selling this year, I'm always happy to have a conversation, walk you through what this looks like specifically for you, because in this market, it's not about guessing, it is truly about understanding.